How's it going, Terrence?
Hey, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. You and I are meeting for the first time, which is my preferred way of doing one of these things because I kind of bring my natural curiosity to the conversation, which is kind of where the listeners are usually approaching it as well. So I'm going to start with introducing what I do know about you.
hmm
You are a celebrity barber and stylist. You do a lot of things. You're not just a barber. You do color, you do straightening, you do lots of things, which I think is totally cool.
Yeah,
And I think it's also pretty cool that you count many of the New England Patriots football team
yeah.
as your clients, which is super cool. Now, some of our listeners, maybe they don't watch football, so that's why I said, the football team, New England Patriots. So
Yeah.
I know we're not a big football watching community, but
hmm
I watch my share.
Yeah. So I love the fact that you did a little research on the certain things that I do because I call myself a little rare breed because I do all types of hair. It doesn't matter what it is. So that's a good thing. And a lot of people, they put me in a category of just being a barber, but I deal with all types of things. I'm a colorist. I'm a national cutting artist for Hattori Hanzo shears. I used to work for Pravana. Um, I've been traveling and doing a lot of my own personal educating thing for the past 15 years, doing a lot of motivational speaking and stuff like that. Like when I first got into this, I like dove in and fell in love with this. So I do everything.
So when you dove in, you're talking about diving into like the motivational element of education, not just the technical stuff, but I know your business development as
Yes.
well. I imagine mostly with Hattori, you're doing. You are a national artist. I don't know if you said that, but you're a
Yes.
national artist with them,
hmm
and most of your education with them, I'm assuming, is going to be technical, mostly technical,
hmm
but you're expanding it.
Yeah. So the stuff that we're doing for Hattori Hanzo shears is basically a lot of technical stuff and a lot of advanced training. And what I like to do as an educator is not just go into like teaching people on like cutting hair and understanding all types of hair, but basically the whole business side of the hair business. So in one of my classes, you're not only going to get the hair cutting part, you're going to get more of the how to grow, like, just try to get you more knowledgeable about the business.
Of course. So important. And how often do you hear from your students that they never heard anything about that aspect in beauty
Oh my
school?
God. I mean, a lot of students that just getting out of school, they're like, as soon as they leave those four walls, they're they don't know where they're going in this career. So the motivational part is telling them, letting them know that I've been in your same exact shoes, and this is what I did to get out of that little area of being nervous, being around clients, and kind of understanding. Because when most kids get out of school, um, they're lost, until they get somebody that they can get under their wing and teach them some certain things. But I really try to connect with them on that part of how they can, get past that nervous side of, getting out of school because they don't really get that part while they're still in school.
I know, and it's tragic, and I hear that constantly, and it just supports the need for people like you to go out there and to give a lot of this advice. And I take a little bit of the responsibility here on the podcast to try to deliver that kind of advice because, of course, with the spoken word, we can't talk so much about techniques behind the chair with your shears, your
hmm
color. So
Yeah.
most of what we focus on is that kind of business development, how to make a career, what do you do,
hmm
motivation. Try to diminish that insecurity that a lot of people have when they're young in the industry. And so we're
Yeah.
definitely going to get into that with you. But why don't we
hmm
start with you? So talk about how you got into this business in the first place. Actually, let's start with where you're from, and then
Okay.
you work your way towards, why are you even here in this industry talking on a hair podcast?
Oh my God. I hope you got time because I got a pretty good
We
story.
have lots of time. Good.
My story's pretty good. So, Actually, when I first started doing this whole hair cutting thing, it was started at 15 years old, cutting my friend's hair in the neighborhood, and that's in Rhode Island. That's in Providence, Rhode Island. I'm originally from New Orleans, Louisiana, but left from New Orleans,
Okay.
Louisiana, and moved up to Rhode Island when I was probably like 12 or 13 years old, and been there ever since. So at 15 years old, some people wanted to be cool, and I wanted to be cool too. So I started learning how to cut hair, and I was going to a guy that used to cut everyone's hair in the neighborhood, and he was charging like $5 for a haircut. And I started feeling to myself like, I want to learn this. But the crazy thing about it is this guy never had a mirror in front to actually watch him see what he was doing. So he would cut our hair, then we look at it after, be like, wow, that was really good haircut. So what I used to do was I would feel what he was doing, and then I'd go home and try it on my 10-year-old cousin's hair. So he really got
Mm.
some really messed up haircuts like back in the day. Then I started getting good.
I
And
bet,
all of my
but that was the
friends,
perfect client. That was the
oh my
perfect client
God.
early on, right? Because he's 10.
Oh
He
yeah.
doesn't even know if you screw up.
He doesn't even care. Excuse me.
Love it.
So I started getting good, and most of my friends started coming to me, and you know, I started getting bored. So what happened was I ended up
Doing the
graduating
same
from high
thing.
school. Yeah, $5 for a haircut. I was never going to get rich, so I was like, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. So when I graduated from high school, me and one of my good friends, we was really into cooking, and I wanted to be a cook. And at the time, my girlfriend in high school, her brother-in-law was in the Navy, and he was on submarines. So I was like, you know what? I think I want to do that too. So I ended up going into the Navy, and
Wow.
I got on the submarines, and I became a cook. I
Wow.
wanted to be a chef. I was still cutting hair when I was in the Navy, just cutting my friend's hair while I was in the Navy because, I kept telling myself I would never want to do this for a living, but it was just something I knew how to do. So when I got out
But
of
hold
the
on.
Navy,
So it wasn't. So hold on. You went on a sub, which is, I imagine, I'm speaking way out of turn because I don't know anything about this, but I imagine that's a very specialized thing.
oh yeah,
You've got to know very specific things, regardless of if you're a cook or if you're the guy manning the, I don't know, the periscope or
everyone
whatever.
has to
You,
know
you've all,
everything on a submarine. Yeah,
yeah, because there can't be extra of
yeah,
you,
no.
right? You've only got so much space
It
down
was on
there,
like 125
and
on a boat. So
that's a lot more than I would have guessed, but that seems like a lot.
but it's not.
But I know they kind of cram you in
Yeah,
there, in the bunks or whatever you call them, and so that's probably a very specialized type of cooking,
yeah.
right? Because you don't have access to all the different ingredients. You probably go down there for what, a month or so at a
I
time.
mean, it's like we can be underway for probably like 4 weeks. It could be like 2 months. But the thing is with me is I was on a fast attack submarine, so we were come up to different ports and stuff like that. There are the bigger subs that hold more people that would stay underwater for like 3 months, and then they'd come back and get a different team and go underwater for 3 months. And the best thing about what I
Wow.
was on is that we would go to different places, different ports. So it was kind of
Hmm.
cool, you know.
That is cool. So then when you go up to port, you get more food, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and but you're probably limited in what you can get because it's got to last.
yeah,
And then you've got to so you have very specific things you need to learn how to cook. And how many
yeah.
people out of 120 are responsible for cooking?
Let's see. There probably was not even more than five of us, 5 to 10. That was
Okay.
basically, doing stuff and just being able to rotate during the week if we're underway and stuff like that. So, but the crazy thing is people don't understand. It doesn't matter if I was special, my specialty was being a cook. I still had to learn a lot of other stuff too, because we all had
Sure.
a either a top secret or secret clearance. There isn't anything lower
Wow.
than that when it comes to being on a submarine. So, you
Wow.
know,
That's pretty amazing, pretty specialized. So so how does the haircutting element work on a sub? I mean, does everyone just
well,
let it grow out for a month, or is there somebody
yeah.
in charge?
So, there, like everyone probably cuts people's hair, but the thing is, it's like who can do it really good. You know what I'm saying? So
Okay.
it's all about making sure the sides were shaved. No one really cared. But if you had somebody that knew how to do it good, then everybody would go to him, you know? So that's basically how it
Got it.
was when you're
So
in the military.
there was no official formal
No,
role of haircut. Got it. Okay.
no, uh-uh.
Okay.
So I was just
Cool.
basically doing that on the side. So after I did
Very
that,
good.
got out of the military, I went to culinary art school, you know? So I really was going to take this little cooking thing serious. Went to culinary art school, and coming from cooking bulk to gourmet.
Hold on. I have to interrupt. I have to interrupt. Hold on. I have another question
Yes.
that pertains to the sub. So I mean, what were there, maybe 10 things that are like on the menu?
Oh no,
And
the best food is on submarines because we used to do everything. Talking about we would have lobster, we would have stuff that rest of the Navy would not have. We were different because we were a smaller group and we can get more like better food. Our food was way better than
really?
being on either a surface ship. Oh yeah, way better. So
Wow. Okay, so then how do you decide what's for dinner tonight? The five of you get together, or there's shifts? Maybe like you have one day and you're off the next day, or
well, we have a someone that's in charge of the kitchen that controls the menu. So basically,
okay,
that's what it was. Either he was an officer or a chief or, somebody that's in a high ranking. I'll be like, okay, this is the menu for today. Then we just go by
okay.
what the menu says, you know.
And what was your least favorite thing to cook on the sub?
Man, everything was easy, man. It's just the part that was harder. And I think this is probably the reason why my house is so, clean all the time is because everything needed to be spotless. Like that was the worst part is the clean up after because we had to clean all the grates and the grease I mean, it had to look like it was a brand new kitchen every day that we finished during the day. That was more
Wow.
harder than cooking. So,
I
but it was
can't
cool.
say. Look, I kind of enjoy cooking. I hate cleaning. I'm sure
Yeah.
that's probably 99% of the cooking population. But it's one of the reasons that why I don't like to host these big family things, like Thanksgiving or whatever,
Yeah.
because it's not so much the cooking, but it's the cleaning after. It can take hours. It could
Oh
take
my God.
longer than the cooking.
See, in the military, we always do clean as you go. If you clean, you done with something, you clean it, and then you're good. What most people do
Yeah.
is they pile up their pots and pans and dishes and stuff like that. And then at the end, you look at it and you go, oh, I have to do this right now. But from what we
Yeah.
learned, we always, clean as we go. So,
I'm the clean as I go, and I try to teach my kids to do that. My wife is the stack it all
oh
up
yeah.
and
Oh my God.
hope
Oh my
somebody
God.
else takes over at the end.
Oh my God.
Okay,
That's one of my pet peeves right there, is seeing a whole pile of dishes in a sink.
can't stand it.
So,
Can't stand it. Okay, all right. So you went into culinary arts school.
yep. Did all of that stuff, and I didn't want to do it anymore because coming from cooking, bulk to gourmet, I just wasn't feeling it anymore. So I figured, I don't want to do that anymore. I think I want to do something else. So I ended up going into college, went to college, and took business administration with a concentration on law enforcement because I wanted to be a state trooper. Yeah, so I did that, and I started thinking to myself, like cops get shot at, so I don't think I'm going to do that anymore.
I I couldn't imagine a harder job than
Oh
being
my
a
God.
cop. Oh my
Oh my
gosh,
God,
I
no.
couldn't imagine.
So
Oh,
after I did
so I
that,
don't blame you for that one. And of course, we regret that you didn't choose that profession because I think there's nobility to it. I couldn't imagine a harder job.
oh yeah,
But I should also follow that up with we're glad that you went into the hair industry. We're getting to that part of the story. But
oh
very
yeah,
interesting. You've done so many different things. I really admire how you went in a few different directions of your
yep,
passion, and long enough to recognize whether it really was your passion, and if it wasn't, then you changed course. And I mean, me personally, I went on a certain course 24 years ago, and I'm still on it.
Yep.
And, so that kind of appeals to me, theoretically. I would love to be able to just like go there and try that, go here and try that.
No.
Okay. So the state trooper thing,
Yep.
you were like, I don't really want to get shot at.
No. So then I was just like, you know what? I don't want to do that anymore. I think I want to do something else. So I ended up joining the basketball team in college. I went to a junior college in Providence, Rhode Island. So I started playing on the basketball team because I played basketball in high school, and everybody thought I was going to make it to this next part, like college and stuff like that. So I did it in college, and I was cutting all my friends' hair on the basketball team and stuff like that. And then I got a bigger scholarship to play at a bigger school because the school that I went to was a two-year school. Okay. So I ended up getting this little bigger scholarship to play at a bigger school in Vermont. So that summer, I was like, you know what? I'm going to try to work at this barbershop that most people in a popular barbershop that a lot of people were, going to in my area in Providence, Rhode Island. And I went there and I was like, can I have a job? And he's like, do you have a license? And I said, no. And he said, well, are you going to school? And I was like, no. And he's like, well, how am I going to hire you? So, exactly. So he said, I ended up going to a cosmetology school because we didn't have a barbering school in Providence at the time. So ended up going to a cosmetology school, a little small cosmetology school that, wasn't, just learned the basic stuff. And I started working inside of this barbershop, and I fell back in love with cutting hair because I started watching a lot of the younger guys cutting hair. And then at the time that when I got into this, the designs in people's hair was really out, and a lot of different things was out, and these younger guys that were younger than me at the time were good. And I was just stand there and I'd watch, and I just fell in love with it. So I put the basketball thing on the back burner, and I really stuck to, doing this whole barbering thing. The crazy thing was, me going to school, I was leaving out of school, backpack on, and I'd go in, to the barbershop and, learn some stuff, cut a little hair and stuff like that. And I had most of the guys that were coming there were either in college at Providence College or URI and stuff like that. And they would come to the shop. So you know who Lamar Odom is? Mm-hmm. Okay, Lamar Odom.
I do.
And a couple of other guys during his time of him being in college, he was in that area. And I used to cut a lot of guys from the URI basketball team and a lot of guys from the Providence College basketball teams because those are all the guys.
Okay. Pause. Lamar Odom, I know that he's his barber was working in our Salon Republic for years.
Okay. Yeah, because most of my friends that know Lamar, because I hang in New York a lot, in Brooklyn, and Lamar's from out there, and I've known Lamar for a long time. Yeah. So I had one guy that coached for Providence College. His name was King Rice. He played basketball for North Carolina. He went to school with Rick Fox. So him and Rick Fox were very best friends, and he was Rick Fox's best man in his wedding when he married Vanessa Williams. And he told me one day, he was like, listen, Rick is coming into town. At this time, he was playing for the Los Angeles Lakers, but he was just coming down to Providence to see his friend King. And I was like, tell Rick to come and see me to get a haircut. And he's like, okay, I'll have him come by. I was like, all right. So next thing you know, I told all my friends in the barbershop, don't leave, don't go to lunch. I have a surprise for you guys. And it was like, what's going on? I was like, just don't leave. He's supposed to come at 2:00. 2:30 comes around, and there's nobody there. So everyone's like, man, I need to give me some food, this and that. So I was like, all right.
I'm starving.
Exactly. So about 2:45, car pulls up. Here comes Rick Fox, my first celebrity client that I've ever done. He walked in, and people always ask me, your first celebrity client, did you go crazy? I'm like, nah, I was real cool. When he came in, I shook his hand out the door. I'm like, come on, my seat is right over here. As soon as he walked by, I was like, and then my friends started laughing, But
for the podcast listeners, Terrence just did his facial expression
of being excited
of what it was like. Yeah, being very excited without while still being cool.
Yeah. So, he came in, I cut his hair. I think he was doing a movie at the time, so he didn't really get that much hair cut off, and that was cool. Then I started doing a few other basketball players. I was in college. I was about to make it to the next level, and then one day, a New England Patriot guy comes in, and I wasn't into basketball at the time. I wasn't a Patriot fan. Even though I'm from New Orleans, I used to like the Saints.
Football.
Yeah, for football. So I wasn't a big football fan. But one of them came in, and got a haircut from me, and he was like, "Wow, it's the best haircut I've ever had, and you're fast." I was like, "Cool." I was like, "Tell your friends." So he said, "Okay." So next thing you know, he sends another player in to come get his haircut from me, and then another player comes in, another player, and then all these guys. I had a whole bunch of guys that would come in, 6'9", big guys. So when I'd leave from school, and I would come in to the barber shop, and I see the couch with like all these big guys sitting on a chair, or I would see all these big trucks in the front, either Escalade or a Navigator or Expedition. They'll be sitting there, and I go and I'd be like, "Oh, who are those guys?" And I was like, "They're waiting for you." I'm like, "What?" So that's when I became like basically the New England Patriot barber. I was doing like 33 players and coaches and scouts at that time, and that's when that all took off. So
that's crazy.
So after that part, I ended up going to work at a salon. Even though I went to cosmetology school, I never really learned like the blow drying part and how to be good at all that stuff, because I was basically doing it just to work at this barbershop. So when I got into the salon world, that's when I realized everything was a little bit different when it came to working with women, because...
Okay, hold on. Okay, so you've got a dream clientele for 99% of the barbers in the world.
Yeah.
And these guys they're stacking up waiting for you, and you're getting to know them personally, which was probably very cool, whether you watch football or not. And then you thought to yourself, I want to go learn how to finish women's hair in a salon?
No, it was a little bit different than that. The person that ran the place, he and I wasn't getting along. He got a little jealous because I had a lot of these superstars coming in, and he figured if I wasn't there, it would be, him, So I ended up leaving and going into work at a salon. When I did the whole salon thing, I learned a lot more that the women here was more of a challenge. Most of the guys that, let me put it to you this way. I left from Providence, Rhode Island, to work in a salon in Massachusetts, but I was closer to where they were at. So I was closer to Foxborough, where the football team, like where all those guys lived. So I went closer to them. So they didn't have to drive to Providence. So I made it easier for them. So even though I was in a salon, they still came to the salon, to get the haircut. They just wasn't driving into Providence anymore because I became that middleman, in between. Right. So, I started learning more stuff, and I learned the difference in being a hairstylist and a barber, and how you have to basically, talk, and your image and everything has to be a little bit different in the salon world than it is in the barbershop. So when I started doing most of the guys that were coming inside the salon, I was doing more scissor work, a little bit of clipper work, and I started noticing that most of the guys that were coming there were getting 2 haircuts. They were going to a barbershop to get the clean with the razor and the beard and the tapering stuff, and then they'd come to the salon to get more of the scissor work, because the women there were basically really good at cutting hair with scissors, and most barbers aren't good at cutting hair with scissors. So I said, wow, I'm really going to be good at this because I know how to do both. So the whole men thing wasn't a big challenge, but the women thing was. Cutting hair, blow drying. I always thought it was kind of weird, how women had to round brush and a blow dryer at the same time. I'm like, how do y'all do this? This is crazy, Yeah. And my haircuts used to always be crooked, like going on an angle, because I never really, focused on the straightness of it. And
we call that asymmetry.
Oh, yeah, no. I mean, in the 80s, I would have been perfect for it, but...
Yeah, we charge extra for that.
No, exactly. So, so I was there and I had worked with this lady that told me that I was really going to be good at, being a hairstylist. And I was like, really? I just got here. I don't know what I'm doing. She was like, no, you're going to be great. And I was like, why? And she said, because you're a male hairstylist. And I was like, what does that have to do with anything? And she said, you'll see. And I was like, okay. So when I started, I'm one of those type of people that like to like work, do one thing, perfect it, and then move on to the next. So when I really got into doing color, you know, I really focused on doing reds. Reds was like my thing at the time when I first got into doing hair. So I love doing reds. I'm like really good at reds. So I would have a lady come in and they would sit down and they would be like, okay, I want to do something different for my hair. What do you think I should do? And I was like, red? And they were like, okay, that sounds good. I was like, all right, wow.
Okay.
So then I would have other people come in and be like, I want to add a little something to my hair, a little spice or something. What do you think I should do? And I was like, red? And I'm like, wow, that sounds amazing. And I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be easy. So I grew
That's
better.
so funny.
I just started learning a lot more stuff than that, what I'm saying, and learned a lot of different colors. And when I fell in love with doing like the women hair thing, I was one of those hairstylists. I was like, I want to learn how to do everything. I want to do short hair. I want to do curly hair. I want to do fine. I don't care what it was. I want to learn how to do it. I was like so excited just to learn stuff. And I wanted to make sure I became that hairstylist that knew how to do everything. And the only thing I don't know how to do is like updos and perms and, stuff like that. I don't really do anything
Yeah.
like that. So I gave myself a goal of 10 years to open up my first salon. And I opened up my first salon in 8 years and opened up two more salons 2 years after that. So in 10 years, I had 3 salons. But before all of that stuff, when I was doing all this color and everything like that, I ended up joining onto this new team that was just building a new color brand that came out called Pravana. So Pravana was just starting at the time. It was like in 2003. And I started working with them and I became one of their artists that they had that was showing, our color line and all the rest of that good stuff. And only thing people know Pravana as right now is the Vivids, but the Vivids were not even a thing. That was our main thing. It's because Pravana was basically a sulfate-free shampoo and conditioner. Because I'm super into like healthy hair. So when the Vivids came out, it was more like an accident. We wanted to show people how great the shampoo and conditioner was to show you how long it lasted. Because at that time, people were having problems with the hair fading, you know what I'm saying? Because they wasn't using a true sulfate-free product. So we came up with this thing, and then this girl put our magenta in her hair on a show. Her name was Kelly Osbourne, and she started wearing our magenta on that show, The Osbournes. And
Yeah.
everyone just flew to the Vivids, and it just blew up from there. And that was like
Yeah.
our main seller and all the rest of that good stuff. So I stayed with Pravana for about 9
By the
years,
way,
and I left.
you're dating yourself to some degree. You don't look that old. I'm
I was waiting for you
47,
to
and
say it.
I you don't look that old.
I was
Of
waiting for you
course,
to say something.
now that I'm looking at you a little closer, you do have a little gray in
Yeah,
your
a
beard,
little
just like
gray.
I do. We
Yeah.
look like two silver foxes here on the screen. But I'm reaching into the depths of my memory to try to remember when the Osbournes was. That was what, 90s?
No, the Osbournes came out like when I started working with Pravana in 2003, 2004.
Okay,
Yeah, it
that
was
makes more
around that time.
sense.
Yeah, yeah, it's been around.
Okay,
It was out a long time ago. So, but
got
yeah,
it. Okay.
I've been doing hair around the same time you have, like professionally, women hair since like '99, and professionally men since like '97. So
Okay,
I've been doing it for a
got
while.
it.
So
Yeah, we're about the same age.
yeah. So, I did that stuff. I worked with other product lines and stuff like that. A product line called Paijao. A lot of people don't really know that much about Paijao. It's out of Canada. It was a really great product line. I started working with a men's grooming line called Cremo out of California too. Most of the stuff that I work with, they're out of California. And, traveling around the country doing that stuff. And, I started really, really, young, like at the beginning of my career, like a year into my career of doing educating. I used to go to the Paul Mitchell School in Providence, Rhode Island when it first opened, and did classes and showed them how to cut men hair because they wasn't doing any men's grooming or anything in the cosmetology schools. And they would have like 75 to 60 to 75 new people in there. And I would tell them about the business and how I fell in love with it and how I started and this and that. And like, I would have all these kids that would put down their phones and just sit there and just look at me and just be like, wow, and they couldn't believe it because I was letting them know I started just where you were. This wasn't something I wanted to do for a living. It's something that I fell in love with. You don't have to grow up doing baby doll hair to be, have an eye for like what people should look like with their hair. You have to become your own artist, and that's what a lot of people don't understand. Like the cookie cutter type of thing that's being pushed out with all these big time schools are trying to build up their brand and sell their products and stuff, And with me, it's like more motivating. And most of the people I've ever hired were from either the Paul Mitchell School or for one of those schools, but they never lasted with me because they were so into the product that they use in school, and that's all they knew. So most of the people that's ever lasted with me were people that came out of trade schools. So when it was a smaller school, they lasted longer because their minds were more open to learning more stuff, and I can mold them to be a very great hairstylist. You know what I'm saying? So, I've been around and doing a lot of stuff, and now I work for Hattori Hanzo Shears and doing stuff with them. And I really don't like to just be that person to go in and just cut hair. Like I said at the beginning, I want to help people learn and get the motivation for this business in order to be great, so.
Yeah. Okay. So you're going to Premier Orlando. I saw on your gram. I assume that you're going to be doing some classes with Hattori, and this episode's going to come out probably in 6 weeks or so. So Premier will have been long gone. But
I'm
give me an idea.
I'm actually doing my own class.
Okay.
I'm doing my own class. I'm not doing it with Hanzo, but I'm going to be talking about Hanzo Shears. I've been doing my own class at the Premier shows for, I don't know, over 10 years, 12. Matter of fact, I think it's probably been about 13 years, since I've been doing Premier Orlando. Yeah, I've been doing it for a very long time before I even started working with Hattori Hanzo Shears. And I just do my own class. At first I was doing men's grooming. Now I'm doing a lot of curly hair techniques, not any of the visual curl cuts. It's more like my way for people that want to blow dry their hair smooth, you know what I'm saying, instead of doing the visual curl cuts that everyone's out there doing, because I'm working with that other 50% of the people that want to be able to blow dry and smooth their hair out and make it look nice and flowy.
Got it.
So.
Okay. So that's the technical part. Let's talk about what you're going to talk about for the motivational part. What are your favorite things to say? And I mean, you've been doing it so long now. I assume that
I have a flow.
You got a flow, and when you drop the certain comments that everyone's like, right. So give us your best.
You ready for this?
What is most effective for people?
Most effective is letting people understand what they have and what kind of career they've chosen, because a lot of people in this business, they don't know their career. They think that, I'm going to cut hair, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that or whatever. And, they think it's cool and stuff like that. They have no idea that most of those hairstylists out there in this world are making more money than doctors, lawyers, like builders and stuff like that. Contractors. We're making a lot of money. But the thing is, they don't get it. Okay, this is the one thing that I usually do. And I'm in a class just to let people give a perspective of, about money and how much money people make. So I always ask people these three questions. How much do you think an astronaut makes a year? Okay. I try to say astronaut because I want to make it so it's like, okay, people that don't understand, and I tell them like, some education, some military stuff, being away from your family, flying out there, traveling around the world, and trying to make sure that there's nothing that's going to blow up our planet and save our lives. People that are usually will say, I don't know, 250, 300, 500, a million. People go crazy. They're like, wow. And I'm like, good, that's awesome. Like, okay, let me ask you this. How much do you think a McDonald's manager makes a year? Oh, 35,000, 45,000, 50,000, this and that. I'm like, cool. I'm like, an astronaut makes, I'm like, a McDonald's manager makes between 75 and 131 to 140 a year. And everyone's like, wow, okay. And then I'm like, and an astronaut makes between 75 and 140,000 a year. It depends on the levels. And everyone sits there and go, yeah. Oh my God, that's crazy. And I'm like, exactly, right? And I was like, when you think about what the way these people have been paid for their jobs, you're like, I thought they made way more money. I'm like, cool. Then I asked them this third question. And I was like, how much do you think a B-list celebrity hairstylist makes a year? And it was like, and that's when everyone just says, I don't know, 250,000, 300, 400, $500,000. They go crazy. And I'm like, do you guys hear yourselves? I'm like, you hear yourself, right? I'm like, I'm like, you're hearing what I'm trying to tell you, but you're not, you're listening to what I'm telling you, but you're not hearing me. You know what I'm saying? A hairstylist, I'm going to say a B-list. I'm not going to say A-list like Rihanna's or J-Lo's or, Kim Kardashian's, those people. Those are A-list hairstylists. I'm talking about B-list. Your people that's doing your local, news reporter or some stuff behind the scenes of a TV or something like that. B-list. I'm like, you guys don't understand. And it was like, well, how much do they make? And I was like, they make 250,000 and up. And I was like, the crazy thing that you don't understand is that that's for cutting hair. You know what I'm saying? That's for making someone look good. That's for making someone feel good. Someone that wants to go on a job interview or someone that's going to take pictures and stuff like that. I'm like, I'm talking to you about someone that flies to the moon and someone that flips burgers, and to someone that's basically cutting hair that makes more money than both of them. I'm like, this is the career that you've chosen, and then I say this one last thing. Who is the only person that can stop you from making $250,000 and up? And they're like, you. You're the only person that can stop yourself, especially in the business that we're in, that can stop you. But the thing that stops most hairstylists in this business is that little ticker, that little heart that you have. That little, oh my God, she's been following me since I was in school, and she has 2 kids, and she has to go and buy gas, and she has to do this. And I'm like, don't you have to do the same thing? I'm like, but I'm like, if you're not taking it to the point where you're raising your prices every year, you become stagnant in this business. That's the reason why when you're ever out there in this world and you tell people you're a hairstylist, how many people that you know are going to say, hey, I used to be a hairstylist. I bet you have a lot of people that walk up to you like that. It's because this business is not for everyone. It's really not. There are people out there that's hungry and they want to make it to the next level. And there are people out there that's grateful and they become stagnant and they never grow in this business. You have control of how much money you can make in this business, whether you want to make a lot or you want to sit there and you want to go and get a second job at McDonald's because you're not making any money. So I get into it, brother.
And so that's amazing. Yeah, totally. No, you're right in the middle of it, And of course, I play this tune pretty regularly about how independent beauty professionals need to keep upward pressure on their prices.
Yeah.
As I've been doing it for 5 years, but especially since inflation started rearing its ugly head. A lot of people don't even know what inflation, or didn't know what inflation was, because it was so low for so many years. But even low was 2%.
Yeah.
So if you weren't keeping upward pressure on your prices, then you essentially were making less money every year. And now it's in a severe situation where food prices are going up 8 to 10% per year. Fuel prices going up 8 to 10% per year. Rent for an apartment is going up north of that. So many elements. Okay, so when you tell them, when you tell your audience or your students this, what is the reaction usually?
Most of the time they're in shock. They're sitting there and they're just sitting there staring at me quiet. And I always get either a hairstylist that's doing exactly what I'm saying, that's just going to put their head down and they're just going to, say, that's me. That's who I am. And you know what I'm saying? It's because I call a lot of people out on this. And then I hear people that's in the audience that go, yes, that's what I do. I actually charge every year. I'll go up $2. I don't care. I'm like, if someone leaves you for $2, then they're not your client. If someone really loves you, they're going to stick with you. Some clients will sit up there and tell you you're not charging enough money. It's because they love the work that you do. And I always hear people like, yes, I got like 5 of my clients that's like that. It's like they're telling you it's time to raise your prices, and then they ask me these questions like, well, what do you do when it's time to raise your prices? Do you let them know? I'm like, do the gas stations call you up and say, hey, just to let you know, we're going to go like $1 up on the gas. Is that okay with you? Like, no, you do your prices. You have to give yourself a raise every year, man. You have to.
Yeah. I have this funny little anecdote of this coffee shop I like to go to, and I know the owners really well. It's a single location coffee shop, and they struggle with all the things that small businesses struggle with. Finding enough people to work there, and the employment issues, and all the things that like a small salon would struggle with, and I want to say it was 2 months ago. I'm there and I order my coffee and I, do my credit card thing. And I notice just to the left of the point of sale system, a sign in a kind of a clear plastic thing that's standing there for everyone to see. And it's like a 4-paragraph apology for why they have to raise the prices on their coffee. And I'm like, Len,
Wow.
Len and Rebecca, a married couple, own the coffee shop. I'm like, Len, what are you doing? Nobody's going to read the 4 paragraphs. Everybody knows that the price of everything is going up. Everybody knows. So if you raise the cost of your coffee from $4.10 to $4.35, no one cares.
No one cares.
There might be a couple, but 99% of the people not going to care about that. Okay. And primarily because they understand why. Yeah. They understand that the people that you're hiring are demanding $18 an hour, whereas 3 years ago they were demanding $12.
Yep.
This is the economy in which we live, and people get it. The clients of your clients, everybody listening, they get it.
Yeah.
I remember having a conversation with my mom a couple of years ago. I said, Mom, I'm curious, has your hairstylist, and I knew her hairstylist, has your hairstylist raised her color prices on you? And my mom was like, not for like 5 years. And I'm like, what do you think of that as a client? And she's like, well, I appreciate it. I'm like, yeah, but I mean, what do you really, do you find that that's a smart thing for her to do or not? And she's like, well, no, of course she should, because things get more expensive. She's actually making less money, and so clients get it.
Yeah, I have this story to share with you. Now, a few years back, I did a class at Premiere, and I usually like to go through this at the beginning of my classes just to see where people were with their prices. And this was before the pandemic, and I usually like to let people be prepared. So I always asked them when I was doing my men haircuts, and I was saying, how much would people charge for their men haircuts? And, I had a whole bunch of people that would say 35, 40. I had a few women. I was like, I charge $50. And I'm like, good for you. I had a guy, older guy, handsome, cut up, nice, hair looked good, glasses, dressed really nice, sitting in the front. And he's like, I charge $10. I was like, whoa, like, really? I was like, how long you been cutting hair for? He's like, I've been cutting hair for 35 years. I was like, hold on, you've been cutting hair for 35 years and you've been charging $10? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, you do know, like, inflation and stuff goes up in this world, right? You know what I'm saying? He was like, yeah, I know, but, this is what I mean about a comfortable part of growing, He's like, I'm pretty busy, this and that. I'm working from early in the morning till late. I was like, yes, you're standing up too long. And he was like, but I just don't know how to raise my prices. I don't know how to do it. And I was like, and this was on a Sunday or a Monday. And I say, this is what I want you to do. I want you to go to work on Tuesday. I want you to do your first client, cut their hair, and say, that's $25, please. And they're going to look at you and go, oh my God, you went up. You're going to get that? Or you're going to get finally, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like the
right.
crazy.
What's been your problem?
You're going to get people that love you, that's going to stick with you. You're going to get people that's only coming to you because you charge $10 for a haircut. That's what you're going to get. I like the crazy thing about the whole thing is this. Let's just put it to this way. Okay. $50. Let's say you have 50 people that come to see you. You raise your prices. Okay. Say you raise it from $10 to $20. All right. You're going to lose 25 of those people, but you're not going to be working hard anymore. You're going to be making the same amount of money that you were making. Am I correct? And they're like, yeah. I'll say, cool. All right. So let's just say you have 25 now and you raise your prices again. Probably like 5 or 10 more people will leave. What do you think is going to happen? Well, I mean, you're going to lose people, but you're going to still be making the same amount of money. You're just not going to be working hard, and people, they need to hear this stuff to understand how this thing works. And you don't understand it. Right. You start to get into this hole of charging this because you feel like you need to be busy in order to show that you're a good hairstylist or a good business, whatever. No, I do 4 people a day, man. 4 people. Okay. Because I'm a colorist and I do a lot of chemical stuff, 220 to 250 per person. It probably take me about an hour, 30 minutes, no more than 2 hours to do anybody's hair. I work from 9 to 2. Okay. My goal is $1,000 a day. I work 5 days out of the week. I do my $5,000 a week and I come here and I enjoy my house in Naples, Florida. And that's it, in the nice sun. And I'm just having a great time. And people just look at me in shock. And I was like, it's not that. I'm like, you can't jump to that number. You have to prepare yourself for that number. You want to know how long you want to work for in a day. Like that's how I see it. I'm not saying everyone needs to go out there and focus on doing, just have a goal. Like put a goal out there. Like I want to do it $3,000 a week. Okay. Break it down on how much you need to make every day to hit your goal without working hard. So yeah. I go through a lot of these business things in my classes.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant, and just to continue on with that whole line of thinking, if you want to make more than that, then you can work past 2 o'clock, right?
Yes,
you can work to
exactly.
4 o'clock if you want. And to your previous example, you lose 25 people, but you keep 25 people, but you've halved the amount of time that you're behind the chair. If you don't mind working that much, then you can work those new clients in at that higher price and double your income.
Yes, exactly. So what a lot of people, I know someone that they don't feel like they're working they don't feel like they're great hairstylists unless they're busy. They want to be double booked. They want to just have these extra people in there. They want to stand up. They want to walk out of there with their back hurting and stuff like that. And I'm like, I never want to get to that point. I never want to be at that point ever again. It's because standing on your feet, the longevity of your career is not going to last long. It's because of the fact that we're standing too long on doing hair. It's because no one has any concept of time. Time doesn't mean anything to people these days. They just go and do a client's hair. It'll take 5 hours and they'll charge little money. I'm like, no, it'll never happen.
Right. Right. And then the other thing there's all sorts of little benefits, little details that are part of this discussion. And one of them is the fact that your best clients won't have to wait so long to get in to see you.
Exactly.
So those clients, we've had some guests say that right there is justification for increasing your prices because they don't have to wait 3 or 4 weeks. They can make, if they need an appointment in the next week, they can get in. That's customer service and that's value.
So in barbershops, I do this whole little bit when I'm talking to barbers out there. I don't know if there's any barbers that listen to your podcast, and this is the thing. This is the thing that a barber needs to understand. Like, put yourself at a point where, like, people don't understand, like, the barber world is starting to become, like, out of control now. I'm talking about barbers are making good money. Now, back when I first started, when I left and worked at a barbershop, I was in that $12 to $15 haircut time when I was doing this stuff. You know what I'm saying? Um, the thing is, it's like the timing part of doing cutting hair, and the people not knowing what their worth is. So I tell people this: I'm like, if you got to let people know if you're a $25 barber or you're a $50, $60 barber. Okay. So I say
Hmm.
this every time. I'm like, let's say I come and work in your shop, and someone walks in the door, and my next client's coming in at like 9:15, 9:30. This person walks in and be like, hey, I need a haircut. I'm like, cool. How much do you charge? I charge $65. And they'd be like, oh yeah, that's too much. And I would go, well, that guy right there charges $25 if you want him. Oh yeah, I'm gonna wait for him. You know what I'm saying? Okay, that's fine. I don't get mad. I don't get upset over that. Okay. My client comes in, he sits in my chair. What do you think that that client that's sitting in that chair over there is doing the whole time? Do you
Watching you.
watching me? Because everybody wants to know what a $65 haircut looks like. And it's not just the way you cut hair and this and that. It's about everything. Everything is in a package. Okay? Your image of what you look like, how on time you are, the cleanliness of what you got going on, your image, what you look like as a professional. At the end of the haircut, are they out of there in time? I'm dusting them off, making sure that they're good. I bring them up to the front desk and I'm like, okay, I have this appointment for you. Do you like morning times? I know you like to be here in the morning, in and out. I got this 9:30 in 2 weeks. I'm going to put you there. Okay. This is the product that I use in your hair. If you like that look that you have, you know what I'm saying? I will see you in a couple of weeks, blah, blah, blah. And they're gone. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
That's what a $65 haircut looks like. It has nothing to do with me sitting up there saying to them, yo, what's going on, man? I'm gonna be with you in a couple of minutes. Let me just finish this over here. And that person's sitting there. Well, oh, I thought I had a 9 o'clock, and they're sitting there till 10:30, to get in. That's not what a
Yep.
$65 haircut looks like. The timing,
Right.
the rebooking, the retail, all of this stuff, your image, your professionalism, your knowledge for all types of hair, and everything that you're doing means everything when it comes to being a $65 to $100 barber. Okay? I don't care
Hmm.
what you're watching on YouTube for somebody saying they're charging $100 or $150 or $500 for a haircut. I don't care if they're spray painting somebody's whole head on, to make them look good. No guy is coming in there and spending $200 a week or $200 every 2 weeks to get their hair done. You know what I'm saying? So you have to understand, you have to figure out what type of person you are, find a number where you want to be at every week, and then break down your goal of how many people you need to see every day to hit your goal. That's all I tell people.
And then,
That's it.
right, and then find those clients, and you already have
Yes.
some of the clients. You're going to lose some that aren't the ideal client for that situation, but many are going to stay,
Hmm.
just like you said. Now, on the kind of something else I want to say, there are clients out there who who are able to spend more, and
Hmm.
they want that higher level of haircut. I've
Yes.
referred some of our hairstylists to some of my guy friends,
Hmm.
and some of my guy friends text me back and they're like, she only charges, I'm in LA, so the prices are a little higher.
Yeah.
So I'll refer somebody to a friend of mine and he'll text me back. He'll be like, she only charges $45. Like, I'm a little nervous. Are you sure she's good? I want to pay, I need a, really good haircut.
Yeah.
And so this lady, even though her haircut may have been, I don't know, but her haircut may have been as good as an $80 haircut,
Hmm.
but she feels like she has to be attainable,
Yeah.
to build certain clients. And she's actually losing clients
Because they think that
because
she's
she's
cheap.
charging $45.
Yeah. So a lot of my friends that I know that are in LA are charging, especially for the men haircuts, probably going for like 100, 125 for a men's haircut. And I'm just like, whoa.
That's what I pay.
I'm like, whoa, I think I need to come out here. But to be honest with you,
Yeah.
it only takes me to do any type of thing like that, probably like 15 minutes. So I
Mhm.
could do two haircuts in a half hour. I could do, if I was just doing men haircuts, and in an hour, I
Sure.
can probably do like probably like four, and I'm still hitting the number. My whole goal an hour. It's $100 an hour. I always try to go for that goal. So
That makes sense. So I pay $125 for my cut every 3 weeks on the
yeah.
button, and it takes anywhere between 50 minutes to an hour and 10. Depends on how much bullshitting we do, and he's usually the one who's doing the bullshitting.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I'm perfectly willing to do it because I have a weird head. It's a little oblong, and I have the texture of my hair is inconsistent from one side to the next side, and I own hair salon, so I need to look good, right? And so I have some friends who are like, I want to go to that guy. I like the fact that he charges so much. So there's somebody for everybody, right? I mean, this is something that is so important in our industry, is that there's somebody for everybody. Client to beauty professional. Yeah. Before we get off the topic of kind of these extra things that you add to your classes, any other motivational things that you love to dish?
I always tell most people to just never put the blinders on when it comes to, being in the hair world, because you're shutting doors on how much money you can actually make in this business when you only focus on one thing and only working on one type of hair. And if you're, that type of person that says, oh, I want to specialize in just this one thing, you can actually specialize in all sorts of things. It doesn't have to be just that one special thing, like you can be that professional that knows how to do everything, and that's what I do. I do a lot of different things. And I tell people that one thing. I tell people to go more old school. Don't always focus on your social media. It's to actually talk to people, because nobody wants to go to a social media page and see like a hair robot. Only thing they're doing is just one thing during the whole page. And it's always that balayage look with the hands in the back and it's flowing and with the curls and stuff like that. I see that like a million Instagram pages for people thinking that, I'll tell you an example. I worked with this girl, does beautiful work. At the beginning, she was getting like 350 likes, and then it dropped down to like 200, and then started getting to 100, then 75, and, still be around the 75 area. And I would ask people, like, what do you think the reason is her numbers drop? And it's only because people know that that's all she knows how to do. She only knows how to do that balayage blonde look, and that's it. That's all she has. I was like, if you want to build your build up of who you are, you put up a lot of things you do. I don't care if you don't like to do men haircuts, do men haircuts. If you don't like to do solid colors, do solids. People want to go to your page and know that you know how to do everything, because once they figure out that you only know how to do one thing, that's where it's going to stop. You're going to shut a whole bunch of doors on how you can make money in this business.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So I want to come back. So we've done about an hour, but I want to come back next week and continue the conversation, because there's still things that we can talk about. I still have a lot of questions for you. You want to do that? Does that sound good?
Yeah, that sounds good to me.